Hey guys, and welcome back to the Yes Means Yes podcast. On this week's episode, we are interviewing some bartenders in the local Auburn, Alabama area, just to talk to them about drug facilitated sexual assault and kind of like the atmosphere and everything and working in a bar. As usual, my name is Faith Nomchef. I'm the victim advocate and outreach coordinator, and I'm going to kind of let everyone go around and introduce themselves.
Hi guys, I'm Katie and I'm an intern with Rape Counselors of East Alabama. I'm a senior at Auburn and I'm majoring in global studies.
My name is Megan Davis and I worked for Southeastern Bar and Grill and I worked there for about a year.
Okay, so my name is Shantae. I wouldn't consider myself currently a bartender. I have a full-time job Monday through Friday. I work at a childcare subsidy, but I actually am bartending tomorrow, so I kind of have to say I kind of am. But I would say I started bartending about when I moved to Auburn, which was in 2013. I worked a lot in the service industry. I've worked restaurants. I have bartended for a contracted company where we work events. This event specifically that I'm working tomorrow, I was hired on privately just by knowing the wedding planner. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. And Nick, can you tell us a little bit about your experience bartending?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Nick Rubin. I was a bartender up until June of this year. I'm currently in Chicago working my full-time job, but I've been bartending for about 12 years. The most recent was 5 years in Auburn.
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys so much. So you kind of talked a little bit about how long you've been there. So your bartending experiences, what were the places you worked at? Were they like, I know Shantae, you mentioned you've done some weddings. Were they like local bars? Was it like a restaurant bar? What kind of experience have you had in the environments?
Right. Okay. So my first one, I worked for a fine dining restaurant. I wasn't necessarily like the main bartender, but I definitely did some bartending there. And then from there, I worked at a local restaurant in Auburn. I was there for 5 years, did everything, serving, some bartending, just all of that. And then with the contracted company that I work events, I have bartended weddings. Those are my favorite to bartend. I have bartended just different events, like charity events. I went to one, I'm blanking, fraternity party.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just a variety of different things like company Christmas parties.
Okay. And Nick, what about your experiences?
I started bartending in Auburn in 2015 when I first moved there, and I bartended at Live Oaks and Sky Bar for pretty much Sky Bar almost the entire time I was in Auburn, and Live Oaks for the first 3 years.
I just worked for about a year and I worked for Southeastern in Auburn. I did do a little bit over the summer while I was in Orange Beach, but it was a breakfast place. It wasn't anything like an actual bar scene.
Okay. So between you guys, we have a good wide field of experience in like all the little different bar arenas for sure.
Yeah, awesome. So what were the atmospheres and environments of these bars that you guys worked at amongst the patrons and the workers and I guess like interactions and stuff? Just what was that like at the various places?
So at Southeastern, it was kind of really laid back. As you may know, it was kind of an open area with benches and tables, and it was just kind of fun and light. There wasn't really anything like cliquish, kind of like other bars that I've worked at. And everyone was just kind of like a family employee-wise. So it was actually very calm and relaxed.
I would say the first place, it was a fine dining restaurant that was also like a hotel. So there was a lot of policies to uphold. It was very prim and proper. That one was actually very stressful. From there, when I went to that restaurant, I actually worked at Niffers for 5 years and met my husband there. So the service industry is huge. I loved it there. Never really met a person, customer or coworker that I did not like, except on rare occasions. It was real fun, but there is a lot of training that goes with that. We have to sign off, I think like it was yearly. I can't remember what it was called, but basically just making sure that you knew like how to check IDs and whatnot. With the contracted company and with the various events, there are a lot of rules to abide with that as well, just depending on like the event and who the bar manager is. We have to wear specific attire, making sure like you're not eating or drinking or anything like that. But I don't think I've ever had a bad experience with any place that I've worked.
So obviously Live Oaks and Sky Bar are two completely different atmospheres. But come football season, they were very similar. It was chaotic. And honestly, trying to monitor like how much each individual person has had to drink, that was easier at Live Oaks because it's obviously a lot smaller, but it's more of a restaurant environment, and your options, you have two bars that you can order drinks through or your server. Sky Bar, it's almost impossible to monitor how much someone has had to drink unless they start their tab at your bar and they keep coming back. Like when it was crazy, like if somebody was cut off at my bar at Sky Bar, like we would try when possible to communicate with other bars. Hey, if you see this person, like they're done, give them water, or we would get security and obviously have them removed. So we tried to, at both places, watch out for the customers, but it's not always practical.
Right. As a pre-COVID patron of Sky Bar, I can't even imagine. Like, I cannot even imagine trying to keep up. I already think like every blonde girl looks the same. I couldn't imagine trying to keep up with like their drinking. So it's impressive that y'all honestly even tried. But that's very interesting. I didn't know that was an attempt. I know, Shantae, you talked about you received certain training on how to check IDs. At Rate Counselors, we're really pushing now bystander training and like things like that. So I was curious if either of you in any of your experiences when you worked places, did you ever receive any sort of bystander training from like anywhere, even if it wasn't just like DV or like sexual assault or anything, but like any sort of bystander intervention?
I mean, in regards to like if someone's had too much to drink, like when to cut them off, if they're getting violent, just the different avenues you can take and who to call or contact in regards of that. But I think that's the extent of it.
Mm-hmm.
I've personally never had any formal training as far as that goes, except for like the ID, checking IDs, like Shantae was talking about. But in pre-shift meetings, there were tips on how to spot it, how to prevent it, and things that we could do. But as far as sitting down and here's a class on this topic, no.
So the only official bystander training that I received was through Auburn or through RCEA. However, in training for Southeastern at the bar, it was more of, if you see anything, please report it, because we want this to be a safe environment for everyone. And it would go over stuff like what may look suspicious, or it was kind of a follow your gut type of thing, and don't be like scared to speak up.
Do you guys think that if this class were to be offered, do you think this could be something beneficial for bartenders?
I think so. Having had worked in both fields, I remember working with RCEA. That was something that, we had done some research on. And being a bartender, I think it is important because we do see a lot of these assaults occur most after some kind of alcohol intake. So I think that would be really important.
I agree with Shantae. Like it would be very beneficial to have the training. And I think honestly, that's one reason that I've never had the formal training, is because it's not something that I know to be offered.
Yeah. I mean, that's very fair. I guess that's not something you would like typically think of. I mean, before I was in the field of sexual assault, and I'm sure Shantae and Katie might agree with me as well, there were so many things that I wasn't aware of, or aware of the need to even look out for. So,
Yeah, it's true.
So you both kind of said that you didn't really receive any formal bystander training. In other trainings, did y'all ever go over like sexual harassment policies, or like sexual like assault, anything to do with any sexual violence?
I would say, like, in most, I don't want to say in every business, but in most businesses, they have like a policy handbook. And I know for sure NIFRS does, they do like a really good job of laying those policies out. But it's not like it's a class that like you take. It's just like, it lays it out in policy. Like, it's not tolerated. You do it. Like, here's what your, repercussions are. But not anywhere that I've worked in the service industry has it been like trained or been a class or anything like that.
The only times that it's really been discussed for me is pre-shift meetings, which are very short, very brief, and orientation. Other than that, it's only when a situation arises, unfortunately.
It's also just like one of those topics that like nobody wants to talk about. And being like the manager, you don't want to be that person. I mean, regardless, just talking about it, a lot of people are just weirded out by it. But even like if a situation arises, it's almost hard for people to believe that, like, I can't believe like my employee would do that.
Right. And if they were to bring it up in a situation when no one had actually done anything, then people are just automatically going to assume that they're doing it to save their back in some way too.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, well, I know that there's been instances where I've gone to bars or restaurants and stuff, and in the bathroom, or even on campus and stuff, just like in the bathroom, they'll have a sign that says if you're feeling unsafe and you need to, let someone know that you're feeling unsafe, you can talk to, one of the workers. And so I'm just wondering, at any of the places y'all work, did y'all ever have anything to let the patrons know that they could reach out to someone if they felt uncomfortable or felt that, they were unsafe or anything at the places?
So not in the bars that I worked at, didn't have any signage or anything. The restaurant that I worked at did have a little poster in the back that was like, if you're feeling uncomfortable, please go see the hostess, but not in the bars.
Not that I recall anything like specific being posted, no.
I'm not aware of any signs, but I have had girls approach me at the bar and say that somebody was harassing them.
So I've heard before there's like a special drink someone can order, and I'm not going to say the name. In case that they do feel uncomfortable, they can come up to a bartender and let them know. Have y'all ever had an instance where someone came up and said that they wanted that specific drink?
No, not personally. And the only way that I've ever found out about that was through reading an article on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I've never had anyone order it from me, but I am familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
Not specifically in a way to order a drink, but I have had patrons come up and give me kind of like a universal signal or like, hey, would you mind like coming over here and talking to me type deal, but nothing code word-ish.
Because I've heard, like, I think it's a great initiative, and we've thought about doing it, because I think we also thought about doing it too, Shantae, when you were with RCEA. But
Yes.
this, like, at this point, like, I feel like a lot of people know about it. So it's like that line of,
yeah, it's like one of those things that like people think, oh, this is a really good idea. This is really cool. So it gets shared on social media, and then it's just like everywhere.
Right. So like it doesn't get shared to people who actually might need it, but now anyone who might be a perpetrator could also hear it and put the victim in more danger. And yeah. But okay. So do you guys know what drug facilitated sexual assault is?
Yeah, I've heard a lot about it, and it was mentioned a few times when I was going through the interview process and the training process to be a bartender.
Yes.
Okay. Shantae, I'm sure you know it.
Of course I do.
Anyone not listening, basically this is using drugs or alcohol to a perpetrator's advantage to be able to use it against the victim. To maybe it's them saying, oh, take the shot, keep drinking, or drugging them, or in any way incapacitating them via these methods for the purpose of assaulting them. So I know, and I think we'll kind of go into this a little bit more later, in the Auburn area, if you've been in there any amount of time, you've probably heard like rumors of druggings. And I mean, we got an AU alert, I think a few weeks ago, that there had been like druggings at fraternity parties. So I was curious, and in the sexual assault world, we see more sexual assaults August through November. We see a very like high rise of those because students are coming back, and we like have everyone back in that area, and there's lots of parties going on. And like Shantae said, there's very often alcohol is involved in sexual assault. So I'm curious if you've ever noticed a particular time that you see this happen with patrons or anyone that you might be serving. Not necessarily from y'all, but like they themselves had experienced like druggings. Is there like a certain like rise or increase of instances of that?
I feel like it's more towards the beginning of the school year when like the fraternities and sororities are hosting a lot of their events. And when, not saying it always happens at the fraternity and sorority houses, but when they are the most active, even when they go out in groups. So it's easier to find a target. And a lot of them, like even socials, they all dress up the same. And so you don't know who's who. And then maybe the end of each semester. But other than that, I don't really know of a specific time.
This is going to sound funny. So honestly, the only specific time, I'm sure there's some, like having served and being a patron to many different things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see the one individual just hitting on another individual. Hey, can I buy you a drink? I was actually a patron at a restaurant here in Auburn with my husband. And there was this woman who was sitting at the bar. You can tell she had been drinking a lot. And there was like two gentlemen that were at the bar. And you can tell like they hadn't come together. They were sitting like some distance apart, but she would like lean over. And then like they just kind of suddenly like left. And then the woman and one of the guy was like in a car for a long time. Yeah, it was really weird. I don't know why that came to my head.
No, I mean, that's interesting. And I think it's good to include examples because, I mean, we could sit here and talk about it all day long, but there's still going to be people who are like, oh, that doesn't happen. Auburn is a nice place. There's families here, whatever.
Right. I mean, and that was an instance of not even students. Like they were a little, I mean, probably 10, 15 years older than I am.
Right. It can happen to anyone and anywhere.
It's been reported that it's happened. I personally didn't see it, but it has been reported more so, especially in Auburn during football season when the bars have been really crowded. So.
Okay.
Okay, well, I know, Nick, you mentioned that there have been girls that have approached you, saying they were sexually harassed or sexually assaulted. And is there any, or I guess what is the plan in place if someone does come up to the bartender and says that, they think they've been sexually harassed or assaulted? What do y'all do? Do y'all go to the manager or just what's that process look like?
So we didn't have like a specific step-by-step thing of what to do or like a procedure. But what usually happened, and this was kind of worked out with the employees and other bartenders, that if someone did come up telling us, my friend is feeling uncomfortable or I'm feeling uncomfortable, can you help me? We would usually take them back. If they went up to a guy, we would get another girl to go with them, or we would have like two people go with. We would go towards the back, like the kitchen area or somewhere a lot more quieter, get them to tell us the situation and describe the person. And then we would go over the radio and tell the bouncers and the security floor guys what was going on in the description. And we would try to get that person out and get that the one that reported it calmed down, or the victim that was being harassed calmed down until they felt better. And then we would try to get them a safe way to get home or to call their friends to come pick them up. We never really left them alone after that.
Well, it really just depends on what's going on. If it is somebody that is just talking and annoying, I guess a girl like won't quit trying to carry on a conversation. Like, having been drunk before, I feel like I get very talkative. So that's not necessarily something that's crossing a line. So in that situation, like, we'll just monitor it. And there's an employee at Sky Bar that I worked with when I was there, and like her ex was he was the jealous type, and when he started drinking like that, it never ended well. And when she would see him, she would start drinking more. And like, there was one night where like he was up in her face, and like I stopped what I was doing, went around the bar, and like I grabbed a hold of her and I said, "Come here, let me talk to you for a second." And granted, she's one of my friends, so I could go about it a little different. But I told her, I said, "Pull out your phone, and I'm going to call myself, so that way if you need me, then all you have to do is pull out your phone, and I'm the last person you call. Just call me again. I have my Apple Watch, and I will find you, and I'll handle it." But anytime that there was a situation, if it was somebody that was crossing a line, then no questions asked. Like, as long as it was something that made sense. I mean, it's hard to say specifics because there's so many different instances and things that can go on. But I mean, if there was somebody acting inappropriately, like, the first thing is get them out of the bar. And we would go up to the upstairs, get a picture of their face on the security camera, and take it around all the doors and be like, "Do not let this person in." And once again, like, the security guys, that is very hard to do, to remember that one face that you see the entire night, and they tried to do the best that they could.
Yeah.
That was interesting to hear. I like hearing that because you never know, like not having worked somewhere. I've never really experienced anything like that. But again, my situations have been very different from where Nick has worked. But I feel like something would have been done, but I think I would have gone to someone above me, like a manager, the bar manager, and just see like what my options are, just because me and being so passionate about it and like wanting to protect someone, I would be like super passionate about it and then probably do something wrong for the company.
No, I
probably like start cussing someone out and then it's like, oh, Shantae doesn't have a job anymore.
Yeah. No, I'm the person, if I see, I was at the bar, oh goodness, this was like right before COVID happened. I remember I saw someone, I did not know if they were just like drunk out of their mind or they were drugged or I don't know what was going on. They did not look good. I could not enjoy myself for the rest of the night. I had to go track down a security guard. I had to be like, look, I pointed him out. I was like, I don't know what's going on with this guy, but can you please take care of him? Because I can't have fun. Because I think that someone's going to take him home or something. So
That's so funny. I was the same way, like especially when I was with RCEA, like I could not go out. Like I was so afraid of like running into volunteers or
yeah, that too.
victims that we have served or anything like that. And it's just like, I don't know. But then I was always just like watching, even more so, like my awareness was heightened.
Yes.
And so like I remember specifically being out downtown and this guy was like up this girl's shorts, but I wanted to like intervene, but she wasn't fighting off. So I was like, is it my business? And it was just like conflicting. And I was like, do I do something? Like, I don't want to be that person if like that's her boyfriend and she's okay with it. Or like, do I just check?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem that a lot of people experience. Like, I think for the most part, people are good people and want to do the right thing and step in. But it's like these social like boundaries and like you don't want to embarrass yourself and you don't want to be wrong. And so it does make it complicated and it does make it hard to be an effective bystander, I think.
I definitely agree with what you're saying. Personally, I do not have an issue with confrontation. And I know that there's so many people that do. Yeah. And I also, and this is in my mind, it's justified, but I don't think everyone would agree. But I have no fear of getting in trouble for doing the right thing. Like if I understand that as an employee, there's a certain way that we're supposed to treat guests and that doesn't need to be crossed. But it's also a bar and that those lines get blurred a lot. So I'm going to handle it however necessary. I'm not going to like jump straight into trying to escalate the situation, like but however far it goes, okay, like that's something I feel needs to be done and I will deal with consequences after.
100%. Yeah.
And I think it's important to have people exactly like you working at bars because I feel like that's necessary when especially dealing with drunk college students too, to have someone who's going to be like, hey, chill, man.
Drunk college students are my favorite.
So I know that y'all have talked about any potential sexual harassment amongst patrons and stuff, like amongst other patrons. But in your instances of bar work, have you had a coworker experience any like sexual harassment, assault, or uncomfortable situations that occurred in the work environment? Be this between like colleagues, coworkers, or even like from patrons, or vice versa?
I don't think I have personally had any kind of situations against me, but there have been definitely a few instances against coworkers. Coworker to coworker in one specific instance that it was just kind of brushed off and really, for lack of better words, pissed me off. But there's only so much you can do but be there for that person who is, talked to wrongly. I mean, definitely some patrons saying some inappropriate things to some of the really pretty servers. And, but I will say managers have been really good about, hey, knock it off or you're not allowed to come back, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. I feel like that's necessary.
Yes.
Some people.
Skybar, yes, like that is that was an issue. And 95% of the time it was patrons making comments about the female bartenders that were working there. And once again, that's something that, like, if they want to compliment them, great, like, do it, go on. But anything that I felt was inappropriate, or anytime something was said that I could see a reaction from a female bartender that it made her feel uncomfortable, like, I'm going to say something. And if there's an issue with it, like, they get one warning. I'll let them know, look, keep it to yourself. And if they carry on, we kick them out.
So the one warning, is that like a Nick rule or is that like a Skybar rule?
Well, that's a one warning if it's just like a verbal, just saying something that they shouldn't. And there's exceptions to that too. Like, there's certain things that if you say it, no, like, you're out. Really, that is like a situational rule. That is the great thing about working at Skybar, is if we kick somebody out, security does it. Like, there is no, why are we kicking them out? They get them out. And then if that person is at the front door, like, carrying on, like, one of the security guys will come up and ask us, hey, what happened? Because he's saying he shouldn't be kicked out and, like, he's causing a scene. And I just want to be able to go tell him exactly, this is what happened. This is why you're gone. And that was awesome.
That's good to have someone strong to just, get them out without any hesitation, pushing back on you and stuff.
Yeah.
They tell you it's part of the job, especially when you're, just a small female bartender working in a college bar. I've had guys from, who are in college to the older guys coming in for football games, saying some things, but you just kind of get used to it after a while. And that sounds terrible. Like, it shouldn't be okay. But we've had our run-ins and you just kind of brush it off because they can't really get to you when you're behind the bar. So the bar kind of is like a barrier for us. And they usually try and say, well, it's not big of a deal because they throw tips at you. Yeah, but it still makes me very uncomfortable and I don't feel safe leaving,
Right. Well, I mean, that's sad because you should never feel unsafe leaving your job.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, Southeastern is probably one of the best places that I've worked in a sense of all the employees having each other's backs, because especially during game season, the boys, the bouncers would walk us to our cars or offer to walk us to our cars. And they always kept an eye on us. Like, I had a customer who was harassing me one day and one of the guys came up and, told him that wasn't cool and to get away. And it's happened and they've taken it for several of us several times and gotten them thrown out and made them leave or had them removed. So it kind of balances itself out, but at the same time, they think that everybody thinks that's normal culture and it shouldn't be.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting that both you and Nick talked about that, specifically how like the female bartenders had to deal with unwelcome advances and it was just kind of regular. But then you both talked about how, the other male staff would come to their defense. So that's something good to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and deep down, that it's not so much as them wanting to make the sexual advances. It's more so them or them being drunk, trying to have a good time and hoping that they're going to get like special treatment or like free drinks or stuff like that. But you're still more susceptible to it, and you can't run from it either because you're stuck behind that bar.
Right. Okay. So I have a question specifically for you, Megan, as a younger female working at a very college like centered bar. I know Shantae said that her experience has been kind of mostly dining, bartending, and like doing like weddings and stuff, but you're at like Southeastern, for anyone who doesn't know, is like one of those big bars in downtown Auburn that all the college kids go to. I'm wondering if you feel like, or you even notice that maybe other females around your age would be more likely to come up to you because you are a girl their age. Do you think that?
Yeah, it's happened a few times. I usually worked either in the middle of the bar or on the very end, and I've had several girls that would come up to me like, hey, like this guy's being really creepy. Can you like keep an eye on me? Or, hey, I need a little bit of help. My friend is like being trapped by this guy. And usually if that would happen, I would step around, especially if it wasn't too like crazy. But yeah, I have seen that they would go to me or some of the other girls my age, because we were all about the same age. And we would all kind of talk and communicate because especially me, I did work as a victim advocate for rape counselors. And so I kept a big eye on it. And so some of my other female coworkers would work with me, and we would work together and keep an eye on the girls that came into the bar, especially if things were getting a little too uncomfortable, even for our standpoint.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think just even for myself, if I were to see someone who was closer to my age and was also like a female, I would 100% probably go up to them more likely than I would just like a male bartender. So
Yeah,
that's probably
a lot more comfortable, and you have more of a sense of she's definitely going to believe me and know what I'm talking about, rather than this guy over here who's probably never experienced that. But with that being said, a lot of the guys I worked with were very understanding, and they didn't play around with stuff like that. They would, stop what they were doing and grab me or one of the other girls nearby and ask for help or tell us what was going on.
Yeah, that's great. And it's good to hear that, especially just because, all the Auburn rumors and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Well, this has kind of been addressed a little bit, but if y'all have anything to add, if you suspect that a patron is a victim of harassment or trafficking or drugging, what do y'all do about that, I guess?
Are you meaning like personally, like if I see it or if I personally suspect it as a bartender?
Yes.
For me, it was more so I would let my bar back know, like, hey, I don't think that girl looks good. I think she is in trouble, or she needs some help, or the situation doesn't seem right. And they would radio it over, and the bouncers would go up to her and check on her and stuff, and I would still keep my eye on her, especially if it was one of those busy nights and I didn't have a break in between serving drinks or customers. And eventually they would work her around, or I could go and check on her, or I would tell the person at the well next to me, like, hey, I'm going to check on this girl. Something doesn't feel right. And they would take over my section for me while I would go and see what was going on. I would always check in see if she needed anything, and keep an eye on her until I was able to actually go and communicate with her.
That's really good that you work in an environment where they'll let you, like, you know, step aside and make sure that someone's okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, as long as you kept your section manned pretty much, like as long as you let somebody know that you were stepping away so that they could keep an eye on it, so
Right.
if things didn't like go haywire, it was pretty okay. Like I could, if I wasn't feeling well, I could tell the person next to me, like, hey, I'm going to the bathroom, I need a minute, and it would be fine. Just, you know, you just can't, as long as you didn't let things get out of hand, you were fine. And everybody was really understanding, especially if it had something to do with our customers or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime that we suspect something happened, like that was also situational. Like the security cameras came in handy so many times. I could text my GM from the bar at Sky and be like, this right here, what bar I'm working. Like, I need you to make a note to, like, and also sending a text message, it had the timestamp. So it was, by the time I got upstairs or something, I could know exactly what time it was, and we could pull up the cameras and we could point out either the girl or the guy, like, this is what we think happened to her, or and then they make notes of it, so that way if something does arise, then they have it noted.
So have you ever seen, like, on camera or anything, like someone being, like, drugged?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Would you say that's something that you saw often?
No, it's not something, I saw it a couple times in the 4 or 5 years that I worked there, just like the video of it itself. There were a couple guys who got caught at another bar. There were customers drugging people, and they actually drugged one of our bartenders at another bar. She was off and out drinking, and every single time that I saw them come in, like, I let the guy, because Sky Bar, we have one guy, and his job is to just watch cameras all night long. And the number of cameras that are in that place, it's insane. But every time that I saw them, I was like, they're here, you need to watch them. And I would let security know, and security was great at spreading the word. They'd have somebody run around to each security guy, and like there was ways to identify them. So it was like, those people are back, and like they've been kicked out multiple times. To my knowledge, they've never actually drugged someone in Sky Bar, but the way that our employee got drugged at another bar was they were buying a bunch of shots for, like, random people, and that's how it happened. So when they came to Sky Bar and they started doing it, buying a bunch of shots for people, like, that's something, nope, just go ahead and end your night, like, have a good night, try again another day.
It's interesting. I would have never thought, which it makes sense, that the security is working, like, so closely together. Like, I guess
I didn't realize that either.
Yeah.
Or that there were so many cameras in Sky Bar, I guess. I didn't even think, I don't know. I knew there would be security, but I mean, a lot.
Yeah, I just thought they were manning the doors. Like,
No, there's those too.
Okay.
No, and while now that you mention that, like, so Sky Bar is, well, I'll wait till the end. Go ahead.
If you want to go ahead, we can.
So Sky Bar is obviously a target of a bunch of rumors of the owners drugging girls, the bartenders drugging girls. Like, unfortunately, like, those rumors spread like wildfire, and it is not at all accurate. And Sky Bar is a very frustrating place to work. Like, so I have no reason to defend them. Not at all. But they do, in the environment that it is, and as large as it is, and the number of people that we have come in there on any given day, they really do go above and beyond to try and prevent, to try and help take care of things. Like, if there is a girl who has obviously had too much to drink and stumbling, slurring, like way past intoxicated, then like there will be a female manager that Skybar will pay for a taxi cab. There is a female manager that rides with her and takes her home. And when a female manager's not working, then they pull a female bartender. It doesn't matter how busy we are. Like, there is a female and only a female in that taxi to make sure that she gets home safely. I hate that there's so much focus on, oh, it's the bartenders, oh, it's the owners, oh, it's Sky Bar itself, because that, blaming them for something that we absolutely have no motivation to drug girls, blaming them takes the focus off of finding the people that are actually doing it. And especially when they're doing everything possible to try and prevent it and to just try and make sure that everybody gets home safe.
Yeah, I didn't know that about the making sure that like a female manager, a female bartender were to like go and make sure they got home safe. That definitely is like going a step beyond, I think, than most other establishments would take. So in your experience, you're saying that you believe that when druggings do occur, they are amongst patrons against each other.
Absolutely. I have been drugged at a bar before, and it was in Florida, and it was because I was there with a girl, and we were not focused on our drinks. We set our drinks down. We were shooting pool, and when we went back over to them, we didn't know whose was whose, and I honestly believe that I ended up drinking her beer, and because I can drink a lot, and I had one beer, one shot, and don't remember anything else. And it was scary to experience that,
Right.
but I'm still glad that it was me and not her. But it kind of opened my eyes to, no matter what, do not set your drinks down. And I would say that don't set your drinks down even with a group of friends, because unfortunately too much evil exists in this world, and you never know who's doing what or what someone's intentions are. So it's,
from a statistical standpoint, just even in the sexual assault world, I mean, over 80% of sexual assaults occur amongst acquaintances. So it's usually the people that you would not expect that from. It's that stranger in the alley thing that everybody tells. So yeah, 100%. You don't trust your friends.
I was also going to add, to kind of just like help, I guess the Sky Bar stand of it is like, I actually was drugged at Sky Bar. And if I remember right, because again, I was drugged,
Right.
1 or 2 beers. So how do beers get drugged? It's not in their eyes. And I'm watching them open the beer. So, I mean, that was done by a patron, and who knows where and when, but like Nick said earlier, he can drink. And I know my limits, especially back then when I was in college. I could definitely drink and hold my own, but 2 beers and then to wake up the next morning and not know what happened. So, and I don't think I've ever blamed Skybar on that. I knew that was someone. Now, why and what their intentions were, thank God nothing happened. I was with a group of friends. One of my my friend and I got drugged together, and her friend got us home, and poor her having to handle the both of us. But yeah.
Good friend.
Yeah, honestly.
So now that we're on this topic, Nick, you said this, there are evil people in this world. We never want to blame victims of drugging, of anything in any way, because obviously that is on the perpetrator. That is something, an action they chose to take. But these things do happen and these things do exist. So how do we stay safe in bar situations? Like, as bartenders, what can y'all suggest? How, like, to stay safe, keep from putting, yeah.
Really, the only tips that I have is, one, always keep your drink in your hand. Don't ever set it down. Also keep your hand over the top of your drink. Make it harder for, like, if you're standing there talking to friends and holding your drink by your side, make it harder for somebody to put something in your drink. But just holding it like by the side of the cup, like it's still easy. I would say, like, communicate with friends, with bartenders, with security. Like, if something happens and you feel uncomfortable, like, come tell someone. Because we can only fix issues that we're made aware of. Like, we try to watch out and see what's going on, but that's not always possible.
Oh, yeah. Anyone who's been at Skybar on the weekends knows it's just a herd of people. That would be impossible.
Or football season.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was going to add a couple instances of just things that I see that drive me absolutely nuts. So one, and you see, especially like with college students and stuff, they're so worried about money. And so there's a couple things that happen. I don't know how to word it, but I'll just give my instance. I had a drink and it wasn't in my hands, but it was on the ledge right in front of me. And simply because I thought this guy was looking at my drink weird, I threw it away. I'm not, okay, yeah, I just spent $5 on that drink, but it's $5 or the potential of something. And he may not have even done anything. He might have just been giving a weird look, but I felt weird about it. So I was like, I'm going to throw it away. And I went and got a new one. But, some of these students are so afraid of wasting their money, they'll drink it. Or what really absolutely drives me insane is they'll pick up a drink that's been left or take a drink from a stranger just because they don't want to spend their own money to get more drinks. And it's like, you have no idea what is in that drink. That drives me absolutely insane. But it's like, what is worth it more? Like, yes, you're going to spend money. Like, you expect that when you go out, spend a little bit of money, ask someone to, your friend to buy you a drink and pay them back, but don't just take drinks from strangers. Don't just sip out of someone's drink. And if you think something's weird, throw it away and get a new one. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Real quick, like, something that I did as a bartender, having the experience where one of our employees got drugged at another bar by somebody buying a bunch of shots, is, like, I understand that people want to celebrate. I understand that people, like, there are people that just walk up and give me 30 shots and just want to pass them out to random people.
Mhm.
Like, if you get me drunk enough, I will be one of those people that's like, hey, you know what? Like, apparently I think I have money when I'm drunk.
Okay.
So it's like shots for everybody.
Mhm.
But one thing I did was, like, if they made it clear that they were just going to buy a round of shots for a bunch of people just standing there, is I would hand them like the number of shots for however many people that they obviously knew. And then the rest of them, I'd be like, you tell me who you want me to hand this to.
Oh, that's
Because
good.
I'm not giving you the shot so you can hand it to them. I don't know you. No.
Right. And I think not just like any bar, but anywhere, like, watch your bartender for your drink. Like, even like, I don't want
Absolutely.
to do the sky bar thing, but there are probably some bartenders out there who might do something if they see the opportunity. But yeah, definitely suggest that. Also, this is for anyone out there who wants to maybe spend a little bit of money, but also have that kind of security. There's 2 brands. There's one, it's called My Cup Condoms.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I got excited.
No, I love it. I think
They're
it's
so
genius.
cute.
It's basically just like this cover for your cup, and you just poke your straw through it. So like the only thing that's sticking out is the straw. So basically even better than like putting your hand over the drink. And then there's this other one, it's called Nightcap It. It's the same thing, but it's like a scrunchie, and then you like open it up and it turns into like a cover or something like that. So if this is something that you think that would be beneficial to you get some good use out of it, frequent bars, I will put those in the link in the description below, because those are 2 companies that I really think it's smart, and I think it's great, and I think that it's genius. Like, it's so simple, but it's genius.
And I've seen so much advertising for those lately too.
Yeah,
Like, I see it all over TikTok and Instagram.
Yes, TikTok. Yeah. No, I think it's so smart. So I'm gonna try and be a little bit more positive now. Have you ever seen an instance where like somebody stepped in a situation to help someone out of a potentially dangerous situation, whether it be like an assault, harassment, violence, anything like that in your time at bars?
Oh yeah, I saw that a lot. Not all the time, but it was pretty frequent where I would see some girls helping another girl, especially in the bathroom. I know a lot of people, me included, when I'm just hanging out, like the atmosphere from being out in the bar space and like the dance floor and stuff is completely and totally different for girls as soon as they step into that bathroom. Because I guess that just feels like a safe place for the girls, and there's no tension in there. Like, all the girls are helping each other, checking on each other, and that's usually where everybody goes to hide too. But I've seen it several times. Even our bouncers would be the bystanders that would jump in if they saw something. I've seen several guys jump in and stop, fights or things happening, and stepping outside with them, or carrying girls home to like their friends, making sure that they were safe. And I saw it all the time. I rarely saw a situation go horribly wrong or horribly south. I rarely saw like a bad outcome, which I thought was really surprising given all the Auburn stories that you hear.
I don't think I can certainly like pinpoint a certain one, but I'm even huge on it on myself, or if my husband and I are out. And like, there's been plenty of times we've been out with like some of my girlfriends, and I've straight up told him, I'm like, you need to go hang out all over her, act like her boyfriend. And I'm like, and he does it. It's so wonderful because he's in on it with me too. So we're really huge on it, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's when I say that there's a lot of evil in the world, there is, but there's also a lot of good out there too. And I've seen people jump in and like stop a situation before I could get around the bar to do it myself. So it's nice to know that there are a lot of people that if they notice something, they will step in.
And lastly, what is y'all's message to survivors of sexual assault?
Well, I'm going to try and keep this short because I could obviously talk forever about this. But, you know, having had worked around it and being a past victim of myself, it's important for them to know that what happened is not their fault and it does not define them. And there are plenty of resources that they just might not know about them, but to move at their pace and when they're ready. But to just always remember to take care of themselves and self-care. So even if they're not ready to talk to not even one person, making sure that it's not eating them up, but just making sure that they're taking care of themselves and getting the help that they need, like I said, at a time that they're ready.
This is something that this topic is, I don't want to say new to me, but going this in depth is definitely new. I have to agree with what Shantae said. Like, make sure that you take care of yourself. The only other thing that I can think of is make sure to, if there's any evidence or anything like that, like try to preserve it. Like you may not be ready to deal with it then, but there could be a day that you are ready to deal with that. So don't let that person get away. It's not your fault. It's literally the evil, but don't let that person get away, because then they could do the same thing to somebody else. Like, stop it before it can grow.
That's kind of hard, and I could probably talk for hours on that, but the main thing would be, we believe you, and I know there's a lot of bad people out there that make you feel like you're not believed or that you're wrong or seeking attention, but there are so many out there that believe you. There are so many that want to help you. So if you're scared, lean on someone, because there are people and resources all over the place that you can come to. I believe you. I will always help someone, even if it doesn't sound right. I will help someone, because sexual assault has become such a horrible thing and such a huge thing that has happened to women and men that is gone unaddressed for way too long. And your stories matter. You matter. So don't be afraid to speak out, because someone will always believe you.
All right. Well, do you guys have anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Not really. I appreciate the opportunity to do this. It was definitely a good experience, and I enjoyed it.
Good. We so appreciate y'all joining us. I was so excited about this podcast all week, just because I think it's an interesting topic, and I do think it's something we need to talk about, especially when looking at how prevalent alcohol and drugs are used in sexual assault. And I really appreciated all the insight that you guys were able to give, and you seem very knowledgeable about the topic. So thank you.
Yeah, it was very informative and interesting.
Yeah, thank you guys again so much for joining us, and thank you to our listeners out there, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.